Hi and welcome to the weekly predictions based on astrology for the week of December 2019. First, let's very briefly go over the predictions for the previous week. As far as the market direction, I believe I did catch the reversal date correctly, so market did reverse in direction between Tuesday and Wednesday, although the specific direction of the market was actually wrong. So a few other interesting things to note. We have this ongoing influence that is in place this week, as it was last many weeks, and will continue into 2020, and it has to do with Pluto and Saturn conjuncting in Capricorn, and something like that would typically coincide with increased news about leaders stepping away, retiring, passing away, or being somehow forcefully removed. And indeed, last week we had news on December 4th about Sergey Brin and Larry Page, the CEOs of Alphabet, stepping away. And of course, they have previously launched Google back in '96. So they have been basically at the helm of the company for many, many years. And so this is a fairly large change in leadership. Then we also had on the 8th of December news about the chairman, or previous, chairman of Federal Reserve, passing away at the age of 92. So this person was both a very powerful person that has been the chairman from 79 to 87, so for quite a few years, and a powerful person, again, passing away at the late, rather at an older age. Let's see, and of course, apparently he had passed away from cancer, and that's not obviously an unusual cause of death at an older age, but having, Pluto is a planet that, among other things, rules cancer. So let's see, and in other news, as predicted, especially for the 6th and 7th of December, but it's something that will continue into this week, we had increased news of sort of Neptunian nature. So anything to do with the water, navy, chemicals, lies, etc. And of course we had a barrage of news. So we had news about flooding in the Philippines. About 66,000 people have been misplaced, I guess. And unfortunately, the weather looks like we will continue experiencing excessively wet weather into this week. We also had news on Friday coming up about oil, where I guess OPEC and Russia, I think, struck the deal to reduce the output, leading to oil prices going up. And I think it was a highest level since June, I believe, in oil prices. We also had, of course, the unfortunate or tragic news about the attack on the Navy Air Base in Pensacola, Florida, where 3 people had died. And again, this is a Navy base, and unfortunately, again, the focus on news, I'm not saying necessarily attack, but focus on such news will continue this week as well, because we have a trine between Mars, which symbolizes, of course, fighting, weapons, etc., and Neptune, which again relates to things like oil, navy, as well as lies, deceptions, and confusion. And also we had news about an eruption of a most active volcano in New Zealand and on the White Island. And again, unfortunately, it seems like several people have died in that explosion, and some are missing, some tourists that were on the island at that time. And again, if you think about New Zealand, of course, it is surrounded by water, and with, as I said, Mars forming a trine to Neptune, both in water signs. We can continue more events of this nature this week, so it may be continued explosion of the volcano, underwater volcano. So basically hot, fire and water mixing. So maybe like a gas leak somewhere exploding, and or maybe an attack on a ship that's moving oil or something along those lines. And of course, we also had news about, this was already on Monday this week, Monday, December 9th, where I guess WADA had banned Russian athletes because of doping, or apparently state-sponsored doping or something like that. But again, the same theme comes through, where we have Mars, athletes, sports, etc. And Neptune has to do with drugs, deception, lies. So whichever party is lying, that I don't know. However, the fact that we have issues related to these both areas is, I guess, the key point here. And I guess final interesting piece of news here, again, to kind of put on record, is that, again, we had last week, at the end of last week, we had news about Newsweek reporter resigning after accusing the outlet of basically suppressing the story about OPCW leak that undermined or would have undermined the sort of the narrative about the Syria or Syrian government being responsible for gas attack. And again, whether or not the gas attack had occurred or not, again, I wasn't there. But the fact was, again, that the news had come up last week under the strong influence of Neptune about issues that have to do, again, with Neptune, such as chemicals and lies. And in this particular case, we had both, chemicals and lies being sort of featured. So as I said, this week, the week of December 9th, these issues will continue, or similar issues will continue to be in focus, and similar manifestations will go on. And that will be, I would say, from December 9th through 14th, especially the 12th and 13th. So we may hear more news about the price of oil, either accidents or fires or fighting over or related to, say, oil or gas, or discovery of maybe source of oil or gas, or maybe a pipe leaking and experiencing some sort of a fire, or fire at an oil rig, or improved shipments of oil, or improved sort of ability to send some quantities of, like I said, gas, oil, or related chemicals, derivatives, because that path would be unobstructed and things will move faster. At the same time, of course, if we have water, the water will also continue moving sort of without the obstruction or faster, and that of course can cause additional problems where you have floods or leakage or mudslides, etc. And for the stock market, it often coincides with strong market moves, and again, especially December 12th and 13th, we may expect larger than average market moves. As well as news, other news could be about just religion, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, movies, beverages, any sort of equipment that's used to produce, photographs or videos, and religious figures as well. So maybe attacks on religious figures, fights over some religious topics, etc. So let's see, and of course, with the ongoing influence of Saturn and Pluto conjunction, we may expect more news about leaders stepping away, increased number of earthquakes, mudslides, etc. And the worst days, I guess, for these events would be December 11th through 13th for this week. Also, another sort of ongoing influence that started about December 8th and will continue through about December 22nd is going to be favorable time, or time for expansion for businesses related to IT, aerospace, electric power, high-tech innovation, telecommunication, etc. And those may receive either a substantial boost, some maybe government decisions may be made that help those businesses growth and expand, or some obstacles like legal obstacles may be removed, and or again some sort of governmental support or support from larger established corporations. Perhaps they're buying a smaller company, so something that helps a particular new technology or innovation to basically thrive, and either more events like more satellites are launched, or an innovative new way of launching a satellite, and again it's sponsored by either a country or some large corporation sort of steps in or supports it, so that things are implemented on a really large scale and long term. And yet another thing that may occur at this time is some sort of news, positive news most likely for banks and financial institutions, where we may hear about some improvements, in cash flow, and again due to maybe some support from the government, and also kind of banks and financial institutions investing more in long-term restructuring, again, to improve the cash flow, but also somehow become more tech-savvy, use more sort of AI, use or accept cryptocurrencies, or allow processing, of some financial transactions using cryptocurrencies more, etc. So some sort of a fintech news and beneficial time for that, December 8th through 22nd, 2019. So let's move on to the individual days of the week. I pretty much think that the market will be going down except for Friday, and especially, like I said, the December 12th and 13th may see large market moves, but probably even Wednesday may see a large move as well. So kind of towards the end of the week, we may see greater kind of number of news, bigger events, etc. On Monday, I'm already recording this after market had closed in the US, and my prediction, which I posted yesterday on my blog at pilsudka.com, was that the market would go down, and indeed it has. As I said, only Friday may be like a positive day, somewhat, or at least a reversal from Thursday. And we'll continue having focus on like petroleum products, chemicals, oils, could also be weapons, but specifically either used for Navy, by Navy, or like bioweapons, or maybe pharmaceuticals, but specifically something that either is used by military, for military, as a bioweapon, or could be used theoretically as a bioweapon, or maybe just increased news about diseases that involve being transmitted by water, and something that is like an infectious disease, or just something that leads to inflammation of various membranes, or something that basically thrives in like warm and wet climates. So if there are any drugs that are about to come up, or some results of those, that I think that might be actually positive in the sense that there might be news about the need for such drugs, and or that the trials will be successful, or something is approved faster than usual. So let's see. Other noteworthy things is December 10th through 14th, we may see increased focus on finance earnings. Unfortunately, at that time, earnings may be lower than expected, which is in part why I'm predicting mostly a down week. And also for concerns about cash availability and rates. So the cash flow may be impeded, or there may be some limitations, or some controls, or some decision may be made where banks basically seek support from the government. However, that support may be granted, and on Friday things may turn to up, basically, based on that. And or there may be some large deal, either some large corporations or even financial institutions strike some sort of a deal, or deal is struck with the government, or government on the government level. There may be some decisions that are made specifically geared towards like helping out financial institutions, or to regulate flow of money, flow of cash, or something along the lines of like large corporations and government being involved in regulating the flow of cash, and or a lot of reports about earnings, which again may be lower than expected, or there may be concerns about basically things slowing down. And in particular, concerns may be surrounding that government is too involved, maybe there's too much regulation, or perhaps if government steps in and helps financial institutions, the concern may be that there is no like appropriate limit, that things are not kind of being done in the right way, and so maybe that the relief is only temporary. Basically, things will not be met with this happy, bright outlook, but rather investors might be concerned and kind of playing things safely. And additionally, the same period, December 10th through 14th, may see increased focus on industries related to coal, mining, large-scale construction. And by large-scale, I mean like bridges, repairing infrastructure, roads, dams, etc. And those projects may actually either receive more money, or perhaps the value of such products or commodities may increase. So anything to do with like minerals, coal, anything that's kind of excavated from underground, steel, metals, etc. And there may also be focus on cryptocurrencies and either their value or their usage may also increase or expand. And again, this may have to do with like this whole concerns about the cash flow and sort of whether or not there's too much regulation, by governments. And so maybe cryptocurrency would be seen as some alternative way where there's less regulation, and so the value therefore may go up. Let's see. On Wednesday, in addition to these previous influences I just mentioned, there may be also increased focus on retail sales, shipments, agreements, legal issues, immigration, and if there is some sort of agreement being expected this week, it would probably would take place maybe around Wednesday. There will be, more kind of intense negotiations and something may be signed at that time. And similarly, like I said, 12th and 13th will see similar influences, meaning focus on like oil, chemicals, as well as finance and like coal mining, etc. And all 3 days, Wednesday through Friday, may see larger than usual fluctuations in the stock market, and or just will be kind of very full of important news. So that wraps it up for me, and I hope this was interesting and exciting, and you will come back next week and check out my new predictions. Until then, see you guys later.